Howdy folks, welcome back to War Thunder with the mighty Jingles, and what I hope is going to be an interesting replay. It's highly unusual in that, well, it's kind of low on action, but it's high on tension. This is Borsanyi, and I'm probably mispronouncing your name, I do apologise. And he's flying the Arado AR-234. It's a German jet bomber. It has a pathetic bomb load and no guns. There's only one crew in this aircraft, the pilot. The pilot also acts as the navigator and the bombardier. There are no guns on this aircraft. It was mostly used during World War II as a reconnaissance aircraft, but on those few occasions when it was used as a bomber, because it could carry bombs externally, it just flew too fast and too high for Spitfires and Mustangs, for example, to intercept it. Unfortunately, here in War Thunder, it doesn't get matched up against Spitfires and Mustangs. It gets matched up against Gloucester Meteors, MiG-15s, F-86 Sabres, you know, the kind of aircraft that can catch it. And so this aircraft's only defence in War Thunder, its speed, is completely meaningless, because it is slower than everything it gets matched up against. Now, it's not quite as bad as that in this realistic battle. I mean, there are no MiG-15s, for example, but most of the enemy team is jets, and most of his team is not. In fact, 50% of the jets that are on his team are Arado 234s, which is not good. He's already dropped his bombs, and he's attempting to return to base, but he's picked up a pursuer. It looks like the Sea Meteor on the enemy team is trying to get him before he can land at Tempelhof and replenish his pathetic 3-bomb bomb load. And of course he has no guns, so he's completely defenceless against pursuing interceptors. Of course the real thing didn't have any guns either, and it didn't have any guns because it didn't need them. It was so fast that the interceptors of the day couldn't catch it. That's not the case here in this realistic battle. So his only option, he can't land, because he'll just get killed on the runway. He has to stay in the air, stay low, and try to stay near the anti-aircraft fire of the defensive gun batteries at Tempelhof airfield, and hope that the rest of his team can swat this pursuer off his back. And at the moment that does appear to be what's happening. So he looks up, he sees that I think that's the Meteor, is in trouble. There are friendly fighters going up to get him. Yep, it's the Meteor. Meteor's, and he's down. He's down. They've got the Meteor. Okay. Is it now safe to land? So the pursuing Meteor's been dealt with. He's got friendly fighter cover. Tempelhof is barely 2 kilometers away. Surely now he can land, put this thing on the ground, replenish his bombs, and that would be no. There's another 2 interceptors in the air in front of him, and they'll just kill him on the runway, which is how the majority of Luftwaffe jets were actually destroyed during World War II. They were killed by Typhoon fighter bombers while they were on the runway, not when they were in the air. There's Tempelhof, and there's the enemy Meteor. Now the enemy Meteor seems to be heading away. Behind him is the F-80C. So he's caught between 2 enemy jets. He absolutely cannot land the AR-234 at this point. These things move so quickly that in the time it takes him to slow down, approach, and actually get his wheels down on the landing strip, they'll be on top of him and he'll be a dead AR-234, so he has to stay in the air. The first operational use of the AR-234, in fact most of the operational use of the AR-234 was as a reconnaissance aircraft, not as a bomber. On the 2nd of August 1944, Lieutenant Erich Sommer took his prototype AR-234 alone on a reconnaissance flight over the Normandy D-Day beachheads. The 2 cameras, mounted in the rear of the fuselage, pointing down and to the rear, took a picture every 11 seconds and managed to obtain imaging data of a swathe of beachhead 11 kilometers wide, returning photographs showing 1.5 million men, along with all of their equipment and supplies, on the area of the Normandy beaches. But they weren't telling German High Command anything they didn't already know. The Allies have 1.5 million men, trucks, tanks and artillery in the beaches and in the fields around the beaches. Yes, we know that, thank you. We've been getting our arse kicked by them for the last month. But I've got detailed information on where all their troop concentrations and fuel depots are. Well, that's great. Unfortunately, we don't have anything that can fly over the beaches to drop bombs on them other than you, and you can only carry 3 bombs. Well, alright, if you're going to put it like that, it all does seem a little pointless, doesn't it? Borsani's thinking about going for a landing. He looks up, checks the Meteor, and just look at how quickly he's closing the distance. Now, he is engaged by a friendly fighter, but he's easily able to outrun the Focke-Wulf 190 on his tail. And just a couple of seconds ago, he was 5 kilometers away, and now he's right on top of him. So, no, we're not going to go for a landing here after all. Not with that other guy also circling the airfield at much, much lower altitude. He's really starting to run out of options here. He's pretty much reliant on ground anti-aircraft fire and inferior fighter aircraft to try to get these guys off his back. There's a Focke-Wulf 190 leaking coolant up there, trying to engage that Meteor. Oh, actually, no, my mistake. It's a TA-152, which is a good aircraft, but it's not going to catch a Meteor in a dive, and the Meteor's almost on him. He manages to brake hard to the left. Meteor overshoots and misses. TA-152 still on his tail, but he's never going to catch a Meteor in a dive. And Borsania, you know, he realises that the safest place to be when you're being engaged by an enemy fighter is on the enemy fighter's tail. The fighter can only shoot you down if you're in front of him. TA-152 breaks off the attack. He knows he ain't going to catch a Meteor in a dive. Looks like he's gone off to engage the P-80 instead. And Borsania is never going to be able to stay on the tail of this Meteor. Not with the amount of speed that the Meteor built up in that dive, and the Meteor is going after the other Arado 234 on Borsania's team. Borsania doesn't want to get too far away from friendly anti-aircraft fire that is opening up, and looks like it's going after the P-80. So he heads back, one eye on the Meteor, and boom! Mid-air collision between the Meteor and the other friendly AR-234. Suddenly, the odds are actually in their favour. They still have a Focke-Wulf 190 D13 and a TA-152. There goes the P-80. He's on the tail of one of the friendly fighters. There's just this P-80 and the enemy jet bomber, the IL-28. They're the only 2 aircraft left on the enemy team. Once again, Borsania slotting in on his tail, just long enough to ensure that the P-80 isn't going for him. The P-80's in a climb. He has not yet managed to kill the aircraft he's pursuing. Borsania's in an agony of indecision here. What's he going to do? Try to land or stay in the air? And I think staying in the air was the wise choice, because the P-80 had looped around and he was going back for him. Flak all over the sky, trying to nail that P-80. And the P-80 did actually manage to kill the TA-152. Oh, that is not good. And they've... oh no, this is bad. The Focke-Wulf 190 is down as well. Anti-aircraft fire still trying to nail that P-80. Borsania is now the only aircraft left on his team, and he has no guns. And he's leaking coolant. These jet engines do have a very, very nasty habit of overheating if you run them too hot for too long, and if you're leaking engine coolant, you're in serious, serious trouble. The only thing you can do now is fly evasive, fly low, and hope those anti-aircraft gunners know what they're doing. And that P-80 is in all kinds of trouble from anti-aircraft fire. He's just managed to avoid him again. Dropped his flaps, desperately trying to outmaneuver a P-80 fighter jet who's getting hammered by anti-aircraft fire. Look at that. I told you this was low on action but high on tension. There's nothing whatsoever that Borsania can do to defend himself. He just has to try. There, he's got... oh, result. Whoa. Okay, well, now he can actually land this thing and get it repaired. Unfortunately, his problems aren't over yet. He still has to deal with an Il-28, which is the new Soviet jet bomber. And what do you need to know about the Il-28? Well, it's almost 200 kilometers per hour faster than the Arado 234. it carries a heavier bomb load, and it's got guns. And oh, did we mention it's exactly the same battle rating? Why? Because Russian. But we'll worry about that when we come to deal with it. He's finally, after 10 minutes, able to put this thing down, replenish his pathetic 750 kilo bomb load, but more importantly, get his engines repaired. So we're going to skip ahead a minute or two. Borsania's back in the air, he's got his bombs up, he's got his engines repaired. And what he's doing now is he's trying to defend the 3 ground capture zones against enemy tanks, AI ground forces. His team is actually winning. They're in possession of the 3 strategic zones. The enemy team is losing tickets for every second that those zones haven't been captured. So all Borsani is doing right now is he's trying to run down that ticket counter by defending the 3 airfields against enemy ground attack. He's just nailed a tank there. That did look like a direct hit. Gains a bit of altitude, reverses direction, straightens it out. He's looking for more ground targets that are pushing on those ground capture zones. Now, he doesn't know where the IL-28 is yet, but providing the enemy pilot isn't a complete idiot, he has to know that the only way he's going to win this is to locate, engage, and shoot down Borsania's AR-234. And if he's paying attention to the combat messages that are popping up, notifying him that Borsania AR-234 has just destroyed a tank, he can be looking at his map, spotting the location of all his friendly tanks, and heading in that direction, and he's going to find Borsania there. Borsania's just expended his remaining bombs on another tank column that's threatening this airfield. Still no sign of the IL-28 yet. Anti-aircraft fire coming up from the AAA cover around those tank columns. Borsania's out of bombs. Friendly airfield right there. He's going to put it down, replenish his bomb load. He has to keep these airfields secure, and he can still win this. The problem is the IL-28 pilot knows that as well, so we're going to speed things up a little here. And it's here on the ground where he's at his most vulnerable, because that is an enemy bomber. If he catches him now, rearming and reloading, it's game over. But his luck holds, he gets away with it, he manages to get airborne once again. Unfortunately, that's where his luck runs out, because the IL-28 has found him. And there is absolutely nowhere safe from the guns of the IL-28. He has guns in front, he has guns behind. The trick that he used earlier on the Meteor, trying to stay on that guy's tail so that the Meteor couldn't point his guns at him, isn't going to work against this thing. It's 200 kilometers per hour faster, it carries almost double the bomb load, and it's got defensive weapons in front and behind. He's not going to be able to outrun him. The IL-28 is coming again for another pass. He's going to catch him. He's going to have to do something drastic, and it isn't going to be bombing ground targets. Now, I have seen, in fact I've done it myself, that if you set enough of a delay on your bombs and you sucker the pursuing aircraft into following you low enough, you can take them out by dropping bombs and having them fly into the explosion. But you generally need something a little bit bigger than a 250 kilo bomb in order to pull that off. And this IL-28 is all over him. Tail gunner's opening up on him again as he overshot. And he's not flying low enough in order to be able to make that kind of tactic work. And this airfield is about to be overrun by enemy tanks. The IL-28 is all over him. They're about to lose one of the ground zones. He's going to have to do something pretty drastic in order to be able to win this match. And dropping bombs on enemy tanks, while it might be satisfying, and it might keep the airfield out of enemy hands for a few more seconds, it's not the answer. Although it is lightening the load on the airframe, making him more manoeuvrable. As he puts this thing into a high-speed, low turn, trying once again to sucker this guy into engaging him over the airfield, where the anti-aircraft guns can do his job for him. Unfortunately, all those 88mm flak guns are more interested in shooting at the tanks. So that's not going to work this time either. And the IL-28 isn't stupid enough to fall for that trick anyway. He's using his superior speed to open the distance and get away from what little anti-aircraft fire is coming up after him. Borsania, what are you going to do? you don't really have a lot of options here, fella. You're going to have to do something serious, and you're going to have to do it soon. Or you could just try to run away and stay alive. Those ticket counters are running down, and they're running down quickly. But you're probably going to have to stay alive for at least another 2-3 minutes before the ticket counter is going to hand the game to you. And he's going to lose that airfield soon, and that's going to slow the ticket counter down even further, which means he's going to have to stay alive even longer, with an angry IL-28 trying to shoot him down. Now what he's doing here, he's trading his speed for altitude. The IL-28 isn't directly engaging him at the moment. Instead he's trying to support, or he was trying to support, the friendly tanks on his team that were taking that airfield. So Borsanya, at least for now, has the option of trading all of this altitude for speed whenever he needs it. And he's just keeping an eye. Oh, he's still in gun range. He's still in gun range. Puts it into a nice little climb there to get out of the gun range of the IL-28. And the IL-28, he's either dropping his bombs to make himself faster, or he's going for ground targets as well. And he's turning in, but Borsanya's keeping an eye on him. At the moment he has the upper hand, and he does not have to stay alive for much longer in order to win by default, but they're losing one of those airfields. So it's decision time. What's he going to do? Now I'm pretty sure Borsanya doesn't have any bombs left at this stage, so there's nothing he can do to prevent the capture of that airfield, and that airfield is about to go. But the IL-28's coming up to meet him. And yeah, just avoiding this guy is not going to work any longer. You've just lost one of the airfields. The tickets are not depreciating fast enough for you to be able to stay away from this guy and win that way. You're going to have to do something. And he's taking hits. Builds up some speed in the dive. Turns it into altitude once again. The IL-28 is manoeuvring, trying to give his gunners the best possible firing solution on Borsanya's aircraft. Borsanya doing everything he possibly can to avoid that from happening, but there is some flak coming up now. It doesn't look like particularly accurate flak, and the IL-28 doesn't want to get shot down by flak. I mean, that would be a miserable way to end this game. But at the same time, Borsanya's in an unarmed aircraft. His options are very, very limited. The IL-28 has all of the advantages. And sooner or later, Borsanya is going to get shot down. So he's in an unarmed aircraft, he has very few options, and he decides to do something very honourable. Now, I don't know what happens if both teams lose all of their aircraft, but he decides it's worth the risk, and he gets away with it! He's won! I mean, he's taken some engine damage, but the engine damage ain't going to kill him. And I'm not a massive fan of deliberate ramming in War Thunder, but under the circumstances, I think I'm going to let him have that one. It was a perfectly executed, controlled mid-air ram in an unarmed aircraft. And he really didn't have any other options at that moment. He was going to get shot down. They were going to lose. And the way he pulled it off was absolutely perfect. So, Borsanya in the AR-234, showing that even if you don't have any weapons, it doesn't mean you're not a threat to enemy aircraft. Hope you enjoyed the replay, folks. Take care, and I'll catch you next time.